and for this county of Essex draw near. With your attendance and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now in session. You may be seated.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I have a series of questions for all of you. If you can answer any of my questions, if yes, please raise your hand. Otherwise, there's no need to respond verbally to any of my questions. Any of the jurors have any difficulty following the instructions of the court not to discuss the case among yourselves or with anybody else? Any of the jurors have any difficulty following the instructions of the court not to do any independent investigation concerning this case and avoid any information from any source other than in the courtroom? Is there any serious and substantial issue involving your jury duty that you need to alert the court to at this time? None of the jurors have answered affirmatively. Ms. Draper, if the jury can be sworn and the indictments read, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Will the jury please stand and raise their right hand? Do each of you solemnly swear that you shall well and truly try the issue now pending between the Commonwealth and the defendant at the bar according to the evidence, so help you God? Thank you. May be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, hearken to indictment number 2013-1446. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Essex to wit. The jurors for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts upon their oath present that Philip Chism of Danvers in said county of Essex on the 22nd day of October in the year of our Lord 2013 at Danvers in the county of Essex aforesaid did assault and beat Colleen Ritzer with intent to murder her, and by such assault and beating did kill and murder said Colleen Ritzer, against the peace of the Commonwealth aforesaid and contrary to the form of the statute in such case made and provided a true bill, signed by the district attorney and the foreperson of the grand jury. Ladies and gentlemen, hearken to indictment number 2013-1447-001. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Essex to wit. The jurors for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts upon their oath present that Philip Chism, charged as a youthful offender of Danvers in said county of Essex on the 22nd day of October in the year of our Lord 2013 at Danvers in the county of Essex aforesaid, did have unnatural sexual intercourse with Colleen Ritzer and did compel said Colleen Ritzer to submit by force and against her will or by threat of bodily injury, and such unnatural sexual intercourse resulted in or was committed with acts resulting in serious bodily injury, or was committed during the commission or attempted commission of an offense as defined in sections 15A, 15B, 17, 19, or 26 of General Laws, Chapter 265, to wit, penetrating genital opening with a tree branch. These jurors do further present that Philip Chism is a youthful offender charged as set forth in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 119, Section 54, said offender being between 14 and 17 years of age at the time of the offense, said offense being a felony, and said offense involved the infliction or threat of serious bodily harm against the peace of the Commonwealth aforesaid and contrary to the form of the statute in such case made and provided a true bill, signed by the district attorney and the foreperson of the grand jury. Indictment 002. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Essex to wit. The jurors for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts upon their oath present that Philip Chism, charged as a youthful offender of Danvers in said county of Essex on the 22nd day of October in the year of our Lord 2013 at Danvers in the county of Essex aforesaid, being armed with a dangerous weapon, to wit, box cutter, did assault Colleen Ritzer with intent to rob her, and did rob or steal from said Colleen Ritzer credit card and underwear, the property of Colleen Ritzer. These jurors do further present that Philip Chism, the youthful offender, as set forth in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 119, Section 54, said offender being between 14 and 17 years of age at the time of the offense, said offense being a felony, and said offense involved the infliction or threat of serious bodily harm against the peace of the Commonwealth aforesaid and contrary to the form of the statute in such case made and provided a true bill, signed by the district attorney and the foreperson of the grand jury. And hearken to indictment number 2014-109, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Essex to wit. The jurors for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, upon their oath, present that Philip Chism, charged as a youthful offender of Danvers in said county of Essex on the 22nd day of October in the year of our Lord 2013 at Danvers in the county of Essex aforesaid, did have natural sexual intercourse with Colleen Ritzer and did compel said Colleen Ritzer to submit by force and against her will or by threat of bodily injury, and such natural sexual intercourse resulted in or was committed with acts resulting in serious bodily injury, or was committed during the commission or attempted commission of an offense as defined in sections 15A, 15B, 17, 19, or 26 of General Laws, Chapter 265. These jurors do further present that Philip Chism is a youthful offender as set forth in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 119, Section 54, said offender being between 14 and 17 years of age at the time of the offense, said offense being a felony, and said offense involved the infliction or threat of serious bodily harm against the peace of the Commonwealth aforesaid, and contrary to the form of the statute, in such case made and provided a true bill, signed by the district attorney and the foreperson of the grand jury. To these indictments, the defendant at the bar has heretofore pleaded that he is not guilty, and for trial has put himself upon his country, which country you are. You are now sworn to try the issue. If said defendant is guilty, you will say so. If he is not guilty, you will say so, and no more. Members of the jury, hearken to your evidence.
Mrs. Dugal.
On October 22nd of 2013, Colleen Ritzer went to work at Danvers High School dressed in a purple sweater and black pants to match her colleagues for Buddy's Day. She carried with her her black Vera Bradley school bag and her purple lunch tote and the knowledge that she was doing the job she'd always dreamed of, teaching math. On October 22nd of 2013, when 14-year-old Philip Chism arrived at Danvers High School, he had in his possession a blue sweatshirt with a hood, gloves, a mask, a box cutter, and a terrible purpose. A terrible purpose that would only truly be uncovered the next day in the woods next to the school by Massachusetts State Troopers with the Massachusetts Crime Scene Services section as they carefully uncovered Colleen Ritzer's lifeless body. That Tuesday should have been like any other day at Danvers High School, and for much of the day it was. The 9th grade math class that Colleen taught that the defendant was in fell at the end of the day on that Tuesday. It began shortly after 1 and ended just before 2 o'clock. The defendant, who was new to the town of Danvers, having moved from Tennessee, and Colleen was on a group of teachers called the freshman team that kept an eye on that year's freshman class that were in their classes, seeing how they were adjusting to the high school, and in the case of the defendant, seeing how they were adjusting to Danvers. The defendant arrived in class, and you'll hear that different students have different memories of that last class that Colleen taught, but that overwhelmingly nothing remarkable happened in that math class. After class, there was a period where teachers could make themselves available to students who needed extra help between the end of school and when sports and other activities started. Colleen was available that day, and the defendant stayed behind. He was joined by a young woman named Autumn Ciani, who was in a different math class, but who came to Colleen's class after school. And I expect you'll find that Autumn was there less for extra math help than to spend time with her favorite teacher. But Autumn was in the classroom that afternoon and had an opportunity to observe the interactions between the defendant and Colleen Ritzer. Saw them having a conversation. Observed that Colleen was asking the defendant how Danvers was different than Tennessee, how he liked the change. Autumn sensed that the defendant was irritated with the line of questioning, that Colleen didn't notice at first, but that when she did, she moved on to a different topic. Shortly, about 2:20 in the afternoon, Sarah Giaquenta, a close friend of Colleen's and a fellow math teacher, came by the classroom. She'd had a meeting and she wanted to debrief. with Colleen, and the two young women stepped into the hall, first into another teacher's empty classroom across the way, and then as they lingered in their conversation, standing just outside Colleen's classroom. While Colleen was gone, the defendant joined Autumn at the front of the classroom at the whiteboard, and they interacted the way teenagers do. He said he'd write her name for her in Japanese on the whiteboard, and he did. Eventually, Colleen returned to her classroom and let the kids know it was time to move along, that the day was over. Autumn packed her things and left, and the defendant stayed behind. As was her habit, Colleen made her way to the second floor girls' room across the stairwell from her classroom before making the ride home to Andover. The defendant left the classroom just behind Colleen, looked up both ways, briefly re-entered the classroom, and came out with his hood over his head. As he passed across the stairwell, he was putting gloves on. He hesitated in the doorway of the bathroom as if waiting for something, and then followed Colleen in. What we know about what happened in that bathroom, ladies and gentlemen, will come to you through the testimony of the medical examiner, through the testimony of the police who recovered evidence in the woods, and from the forensic scientist who tested the evidence recovered from Colleen Ritzer's body. The defendant strangled Colleen. The defendant used the box cutter he had to cut or slice her throat. And the sperm that was present at autopsy in Colleen Ritzer's vaginal canal tells us the defendant, whose DNA profile is a match and consistent with the partial DNA profile taken from Colleen's body, raped Colleen in that bathroom with his penis. The defendant was in there with Colleen for 11 minutes. At the 11-minute mark, a young woman named Danielle Bedard briefly entered the bathroom trying to find service in the school so she could call her father for a ride home. She only made it past the doorway and a short half wall that's there when she saw a pair of naked buttocks, somewhat darker skin than her own. And she turned and walked out of the bathroom immediately with a little smile on her face, embarrassed that she'd caught someone changing. The defendant exited the bathroom almost immediately behind Danielle and made his way down the hall to the other end of the school, where he walked outside. A mother named Carolyn Quigley was there to pick up her daughter and saw the defendant doing something in the shrubs. When the defendant exited the bathroom, he was carrying what appeared to be Colleen Ritzer's pants and something white, maybe the gloves. After he was in those shrubs, he re-entered the school, and now he's no longer wearing his sweatshirt, he's not carrying anything, he's in jeans and sneakers and a t-shirt, and there's something red on one of his hands, all over one of his hands. He returned upstairs to the second floor and went into Colleen's classroom, where he stole her school bag, her purple tote, and his own backpack, and the red sweatshirt he had worn to class, the red sweatshirt without a hood. He made his way back down the hallway to the bottom of the stairs, where you will learn recycling totes, large recycling barrels with wheels, were kept by the school. He almost immediately returned back upstairs without any of the bags or clothing and headed towards the girls' room when he encountered a friend of his, Ramsey Escarcia. Ramsey wanted to know why he wasn't at soccer. Wasn't he going to come practice with him before soccer practice? And Ramsey followed behind the defendant down the hall as the defendant first asked him for help and then told him he didn't need his help. He would see him at soccer practice. And Ramsey went on his way, kicking his soccer ball, oblivious to what was unfolding in the bathroom. The defendant went back downstairs, took one of the recycling barrels, rolled it to an elevator, and brought it up to the second floor and into the girls' room. He was in there for 6 minutes. And when he exited the girls' room, he is struggling with the weight of the recycling barrel. Got back on the elevators and took them down to the first floor and pulled the barrel out of the building. At first, he went all the way around the side of the building behind the field house where the athletic fields are, and where you will learn there is a way to access the woods that are next to the school, but it's steep and it's rocky. A young woman named Emily Roach was sitting on some picnic benches there, sitting out of track practice because of an injury, and she saw the defendant trying to pull the barrel up into the woods. She thought it was someone working for the school getting rid of yard waste in the fall, and her attention wandered. The defendant eventually gave up and made his way back around the perimeter of the school, walking along the edge of the woods, and ultimately disappearing into the woods with the recycling barrel directly across the parking lot from the academic wing where Colleen's classroom was. The defendant spent the next 30 minutes in the woods, discarding evidence, doing what he wanted, and ultimately discarding Colleen. When he returns from the woods, he's dressed only in a t-shirt and jeans, no socks or sneakers, and there's now red all down the front of his jeans. He re-entered the high school, goes directly to the third floor to his locker where he gets a backpack, went to the third floor boys' room, and changed into his soccer clothes. A black shirt, black shorts, barefoot at that point, carrying his jeans and t-shirt. He returned to the woods and spent another 12 minutes or so in the woods, emerging to put on a new pair of sneakers and make his way towards the field house, towards the athletic fields, where students were more likely to be around that time of afternoon. And he ran into someone he knew, his friend Kevin Hebert. Kevin didn't attend Danvers High School, he was homeschooled, but he knew the defendant from church, and he played sports for the town of Danvers. They had been in the same youth group since the defendant moved from Tennessee, and on a few occasions the defendant had joined Kevin and his father at men's Bible study. And Kevin had a conversation with the defendant standing there on the sidewalk while Colleen's body lay in the woods. Asked if he'd gotten a text he'd sent, and the defendant said no, he'd been out of minutes. And they made plans to go to youth group that weekend, and the defendant moved on. Made his way through the locker room, through the field house, back up to the third floor of the academic wing, and eventually made his way out of Danvers High. We know he then traveled to a shopping area along Endicott Street in the town of Danvers. He went into a BJ's warehouse, sipping a sports drink, and he stole a scuba knife. He bought himself a cheeseburger and a soda at Wendy's. He went to the movie theater at the Liberty Tree Mall, and he bought himself a ticket to Gravity and watched a movie. And each of those purchases he made that late afternoon, he made with Colleen Ritzer's credit card. The first inkling anyone in law enforcement had that something had gone wrong was when the defendant's mother called the Danvers police around 6:30 that night to report him missing. And the Danvers police responded, pinged the defendant's phone, put his picture on Facebook and Twitter, alerted the security at the area, the malls, alerted their own officers and officers in neighboring towns to be on the lookout for a missing Philip Chism. Sometime after 12:30 on the morning of October 23rd, Lawrence Nestor was getting off work as the dispatcher for the Topsfield Police Department, driving home along Route 1 in Topsfield close to the station, when he saw someone off the road, walking in the dark where there's farmland, where the road's narrow and badly lit, and he called it into the station. Officers Neal, Hobey, and Joe deBenardo left the Topsfield Police Station in tandem, Officer Hobey arriving where the defendant was first. And he made contact with the defendant in an area where Route 1 is particularly narrow, where there's a bridge that goes over the Ipswich River. The defendant wouldn't look at him, stared straight ahead. Officer Hobey asked if he had identification. He said no. Asked some other questions, where he was going, where he was coming from. Officer deBenardo had arrived and asked about the backpack the defendant was carrying. He said it contained survival gear. Officer Hobey was concerned enough that he patted down the defendant's pockets. In one, he found a rock. In the other, he found credit cards and identification in the name of Colleen Ritzer. The name didn't mean anything to the Topsfield police at that time. They asked the defendant about him, and he said something about getting them from a lady's car at a Stop and Shop. They moved the defendant across the street to an area between their cruisers where it was better lit and safer. And at some point, the defendant told them his name. And they were elated. They found the missing teen from Danvers. And the worst was maybe he'd taken someone's credit card. They called it into dispatch to let Danvers know, got the defendant warm in the back of the cruiser, and returned to the Topsfield police station. When they were at the station, Officer Hobey stood across from where the defendant was sitting and began to inventory his backpack. He asked the defendant, "Is there anything in here that can hurt me?" And the defendant said yes. He opened the backpack carefully, removed a white woman's wallet. He opened the wallet and saw a box cutter covered in blood. He looked up at the defendant. "Whose blood is this?" "The girl." Officer Hobey left the room to contact Danvers. Officer deBenardo gave the defendant his Miranda rights. "Where's the girl?" "In the woods." "If we find her, can we help her?" "No." The Topsfield police couldn't have known what was unfolding at that time in Danvers, because Philip Chism wasn't the only one who didn't make it home that afternoon. When Colleen Ritzer hadn't arrived home by 3:30 or 4, her mother and sister were concerned, but thought maybe they'd just forgotten about some plans she told them about. As the night wore on, though, concern grew, and Peg Ritzer contacted Colleen's friend, Sarah Giaquinta. And Sarah and her husband offered to go to Danvers High School and see if they could find any sign of Colleen. When they arrived at the school, they saw Colleen's car, but no sign of her. They were met by another friend and teacher of Colleen's, Todd Butterworth, school personnel, and Officer Stephanie Wenneberg of the Danvers Police. And Officer Wenneberg and the two men, Todd Butterworth and Andrew Giaquinta, did a search of the school. A search that ultimately led them to the entrance to those woods across the parking lot, where between two boulders they found Colleen's black school bag. The two men then ventured further into the woods, where they began to see things covered with what appeared to be blood. And Officer Wenneberg pulled them out of the woods. The canine officer for Danvers, Justin Ellington, was working at a school nearby looking for any sign of the defendant when he heard Officer Wenneberg's radio calls about items in the woods and offered to respond with his dog. When he got there, he used Colleen's black school bag to get her scent and let the dog lead him into the woods. At the edge of the woods, the dog came upon a pair of cleats, a pair of woman's black shoes with a silver buckle. Further in the woods, a pair of sneakers, suede sneakers covered in blood. And then the dog led him out of the woods to an area just to the left of the entrance where there's an embankment next to some utility equipment and pricker bush. And Officer Ellington tied up the dog and crawled down into the pricker bush, where he found a large recycling barrel on its side. And when he flashed his light inside it, he saw blood and bloody clothes nearby. As this was unfolding, officers were responding to Danvers High School. Danvers officers, Danvers detectives, state police detectives, crime scene services people, and chemists. One of the first to arrive was Officer Steve Baldessari, the school resource officer for Danvers High School. Danvers High School was recently reopened, refurbished, with 140 surveillance cameras. And much of what I've told you about the defendant's movement in the school, you will see captured on those cameras. But that night, it was new equipment from different vendors, and the cameras weren't numbered right. And Officer Baldessari struggled to pull up the footage they needed. The system kept crashing, and it was hard to follow someone from one camera to another. But ultimately, he saw Colleen Ritzer enter the bathroom, the defendant enter the bathroom, and Colleen never come out of that bathroom. Officer Wenneberg was sent to the second floor girls' room to examine it. And she found a small amount of blood dripping down the door frame. What she couldn't know, what no one realized at that time, was that that afternoon there had been a terrible miscommunication. And the cleaning crew that are hired to clean Danvers High School had arrived and found the bathroom in the crime scene that it was. They had gone to try and alert the Danvers custodial staff, but their conversation was literally lost in translation. And the Danvers custodial staff didn't understand what they were trying to tell them and just gave them the equipment and the key necessary to hose down the bathroom, and the bathroom was cleaned. Over the course of the night, the officers in Danvers learned that the defendant had been located in Topsfield, but they still didn't know where Colleen was. Until 3 o'clock on the morning of October 23rd, Lieutenant Michael Holleran of the Massachusetts Crime Scene Services Section and 2 chemists from the crime lab were in the woods searching. They made their way down a path that leads back down towards the parking lot, and as they made their way back up, with Lieutenant Holleran flashing his flashlight, he saw a disturbance in the leaves. And he began to flash his light in that area until there was an outcry from one of the chemists. There was a toe protruding from the leaves, the toenail painted in pink polish. And Lieutenant Holleran moved to where the top of the person should be and uncovered a small amount of leaves. And even though he knew what he was seeing, he sent the chemist to get an EMT. And the EMT came into the woods and confirmed what they already knew, that 24-year-old Colleen Ritzer was gone. At that point, Lieutenant Holleran made a decision that there was nothing more they could do for Colleen, that they needed to preserve the school, preserve the woods, and take their time documenting and collecting evidence. So it was hours later, when the sun was up, that he and 2 other troopers began the painstaking process of uncovering Colleen's body and found the picture the defendant had painted for them. She lay to the side of a path on her back. There was a gaping wound to one side of her neck and cut marks to the other side of her neck. The medical examiner would ultimately determine she had been cut and stabbed with that box cutter at least 16 times. Major arteries in her neck were cut, and the defendant cut so deep he nicked a vertebra. The defendant had taken that purple sweater and the white tank she wore underneath and pulled them up. He had pulled her bra down, exposing her breasts. She was naked from the waist down, her pants discarded nearby. Her underwear he took. They were in his backpack when he was stopped in Topsfield. And before he left her and buried her, the defendant had spread her legs open and forced a tree branch into her vagina, staining the tip with her blood. Ladies and gentlemen, you're all aware of the painstaking process we went through to select you, and it required enormous patience on your part. And that's all I ask of you now, your patience, your attention, your common sense, and your life experience. There will be a lot of evidence in this case, and some of it will be difficult. But when you have heard all of the evidence in this case, I will come back to you and I will submit to you at that time that the Commonwealth has proven beyond any reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty for the intentional and knowing murder of Colleen Ritzer with extreme atrocity and cruelty, with deliberate premeditation, in the furtherance of a life felony, that the defendant is guilty as a youthful offender for raping Colleen in that bathroom, for robbing her of her credit cards and underwear, and for raping her in the woods with the tree branch. Thank you.
Philip Chism killed Colleen Ritzer and did unspeakable things to her body. This case is a terrible tragedy. His actions have caused immeasurable pain. We took a long time to select you as the jurors because you promised that you'd be able to put aside the horror and decide the case based on the evidence. So what is this case about? This case is about why did this happen? Why did a 14-year-old boy, well-behaved, quiet, 1 month into high school, do these terrible things? The answer is he was severely mentally ill. He had been suffering from a psychotic disorder since the age of 10. Why did no one notice how severely ill he was? Unfortunately, a psychotic disorder in children is rarely noticed. A child and a young teen can suffer for years with the illness, and the people close to him don't notice it. The child or the young teen experiences hallucinations, voices, anxiety, depression, fear. He was just accepted as Tanner's quiet friend. Now, how do children manage this disease so that, and children and young adults, young teens, manage this disease so others don't notice? How do they keep these voices, these feelings at bay? Well, they use different mechanisms to cope. They use video games, they use comic books, they use other kinds of fantasy, they use sports, or they use avoiding any situation where their parents will be asking, what is going on with you? And that's what Philip did. So what happened when Philip moved to Danvers? Well, psychosis, psychotic disorder in children and young adults is a progressive disease. It gets worse. And as time goes on, it gets worse, and stress can make it much worse. And what happens is that the child or young adult gradually loses the ability to maintain their grasp on reality. And that's when something happens and parents and teachers and everyone notice. So Chism was under a lot of stress when he started at Danvers. He had lost his entire support system. He was away from his best friend. He had lost the Carter family. He had lost his soccer coach. He had lost all the support of a close-knit community in Clarksville, Tennessee. And he came to Danvers, where he knew practically no one, and had to start as a freshman in high school and deal with all the social, social, emotional demands of being a young teen starting high school. Now, in the short time he was at Danvers High School, there were signs. And what you'll hear is that when parents look back, when people around a child with psychotic disorder, a young teen with psychotic disorder, when they look back after the acute time, they realize there were signs, but they're subtle signs. And it's not unexpectedly, it was the fellow students at Danvers High School who noticed the signs in Philip, that noticed the change in Philip. A few students noticed that he had gone in that short time from being very friendly to being very quiet and alone. The day before the terrible events, a member of the soccer team noticed that Philip was staring off into space and didn't respond when someone talked to him. Someone else noticed that he was emotionless and didn't celebrate when he got a goal. And on the day in question, there were several subtle but telling signs. During the school day, Philip, a good friend of Philip, one of his new friends, saw him and thought that he looked off and said, Philip, what's wrong? And Philip Chism didn't answer. He just walked away. He had never done anything like that before. In the class with Miss Ritzer, Philip, instead of paying attention to math, was listening to music through earphones and was drawing. And you'll hear that listening to music through earphones is a common way that people with psychosis, with psychotic disorder, cope with hearing voices. And Miss Ritzer tried to redirect him to his work, but he continued to listen to the music and to draw. Afterwards, after class, in the classroom, you're going to hear from Autumn Cianci. And what Autumn observed was that Philip was not himself. She had known him somewhat, but he seemed very different that afternoon. And as Miss Ritzer was asking him questions about Tennessee and being appropriately friendly, Philip just got more and more tense. And Miss Ritzer, in talking to him, tried to talk to him, and he became tenser and tenser. At one point, she was talking, and he was looking out the window and mumbling. Now, why didn't Philip Chism seem more crazy after he killed Colleen Ritzer? These periods of time when a child or a young adult are overwhelmed by psychosis and lose touch with reality do not necessarily last a long time. They can last a few hours, or they can last a few weeks. And when it's over, the child or the young adult, young teen, returns to their baseline, how they were before, until there is another overwhelming episode. Now, Philip's actions after he killed Colleen Ritzer were not rational. You'll see video of him running in and out of the school for about an hour and a half after he killed Miss Ritzer. And while he's running around the school, he has a hood up, a hood down, a mask on, a mask off. His full face is exposed. And there are cameras everywhere, all over the school. But he keeps changing how he looks. But often his full face is exposed. After about an hour of this running around, he runs into the school with blood all over his pants, barefoot, and goes all the way up to the 3rd floor, making no effort to hide his face or his condition. And then an hour and a half later, after leaving the school area, he doesn't flee Danvers. He goes and uses Miss Ritzer's credit cards, goes to the movies. And then where is he found? Just walking on Route 1 in the dark, aimlessly north. And how does he appear to the police? Very strange, very odd. He doesn't make eye contact. Now, I'd like to direct your attention to something that I'd ask you to pay attention to. It's a factual issue that will relate to your deliberations. And I'd ask you to pay attention to the sequence of events, including the time of Miss Ritzer's death. Now, there are 2 more aspects of the evidence that you're going to hear at this trial that I'd like to bring to your attention. One is, in diagnosing a child or a young teen with a psychotic disorder, one of the things that doctors look at is whether there's a family history of severe mental illness. In Philip's case, there is. His maternal grandmother and his maternal aunt have suffered from psychosis on and off for years and have had many, many hospitalizations. The second thing is that recently Philip was diagnosed with a psychotic disorder at Worcester Recovery Center. There they put him on an antipsychotic medicine, and after a few days on it, he agreed to see his mother, who he hadn't seen since his arrest. It's going to be really hard to listen to this case. It's going to be challenging and heartbreaking. But the real work of this case is to figure out the terrible landscape of a young boy's mind in the months and days and weeks before this terrible event. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You two go to your first witness, please.
Thank you. Commonwealth called James Mondalto.
Yes, please. Ladies and gentlemen, the court officer is going to pass out notebooks to you, and I'll give you an instruction on notes once you've all have the notebooks.
So would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated.
Come right up. I think you should go on your head when you sit down there, so if you might want to move away from that once again. Here you go. I think that's good.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
There's been a motion to sequester witnesses that I've allowed in the case. That means that until all the evidence is over, you can only be in the courtroom when you're testifying. You may not discuss your testimony with the other witnesses or allow them to discuss their testimony with you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've passed out notebooks to you in case you decide to take notes in this case. If you decide to take notes, I have a few instructions for you. First, the notes that you take are not your memory. They're merely an aid to your memory. I suggest that if you take notes, you do so sparingly. If you have your nose in a notebook, you're going to miss the trial. You may find notes helpful to remember times, dates, locations, measurements, terms, and the like. The notes will be taken from you at the end of every court day, kept in a safe place, unavailable to anybody else, returned the next day, and destroyed at the end of the trial. Do not use your notes to convince your fellow jurors of what the facts are, since the notes are not your memory, but merely an aid to your memory. If you decide not to take notes, of course, then do not do so, keeping in mind my instruction. If you do so, don't let it interfere with your concentration and your ability to observe the witnesses. Ms. McDougall, please.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. In a loud, clear voice, can you introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Jamie Mondalto. I'm a 911 dispatcher with the Danvers Police.
And if you could spell your first and last name, sir.
First name is Jamie, Jamie. Last name is Mondalto, Mondalto.
Sir, how long have you been employed as a dispatcher for the Danvers
About
Police?
17 years.
And are you a civilian or a sworn officer?
I'm a civilian.
And what are your duties and responsibilities as a dispatcher for the Danvers Police?
I handle the incoming 911 calls and the business line calls, and I dispatch the cruisers after I take the call.
So can I ask you to just move this
Sure.
a little and face the jury a little more as you
Yes.
speak so that they can see it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mondalto, do you have a shift that you normally work?
Yes, I work 5 at night to 1 in the morning.
And about how many officers would be on duty at for your particular shift?
5 officers.
Do you know about how big Danvers is?
I am not sure. I never thought of that.
As part of your duties and responsibilities, do you have to communicate with neighboring towns, the police departments for neighboring towns?
Yes.
And what are the neighboring towns for Danvers?
I have Middleton, Peabody, Topsfield, Salem, Beverly.
Sir, drawing your attention to October 22nd of 2013, were you working that regular 5 to 1 shift?
Yes.
And where are you located in the police station?
When you come in the front door, there's an officer at the front desk, and then there's a dispatch center behind the front desk.
And from where does anyone else sit with you in the dispatch center normally?
Yes, there are 2 dispatchers on at a time.
Okay. Now, sir...
Don't talk in the courtroom. Don't talk in the courtroom. There's no exceptions. If you want to talk, there's a whole world out there. I don't want to have to say it again. No talking in the courtroom.
Sir, on the evening of October 22nd, did you receive a call regarding a Philip Chism?
Yes,
Do you know about what time you received the call?
about 6:30 p.m.
And who was the caller?
I believe it was a Diana Chism, the mother.
And just generally, what was the nature of her call?
She wanted to report that her son was missing or overdue at home.
And is that an unusual call for you to get?
No, we get calls from parents that their children haven't come home, and so we have them come into the station and we ask them to bring a picture of their child and fill out a missing person report.
And did you do that with Mrs. Chism?
Yes.
And did she provide you with a date of birth and a description for her son, Philip?
Yes.
What do you do with that information?
I put that information out to the officers on patrol so that they can start looking for the person. And I notify the officer at the front desk and the officer in charge. And then we take that information for a juvenile and enter it as a missing person into the computer right away.
And what effect, if you know, does it have to enter it into the computer? Who else can see it then?
That way surrounding towns, if they come across the person, when they run the person through the computer, they can see that person is a missing person, that we are looking for that person.
And in addition, sir, are there any malls either in the town of Danvers or right nearby?
Yes, there's the Liberty Tree Mall in Danvers and the North Shore Mall.
And based on your experience with missing teenagers, do you take any steps with respect to the two malls when you get a report of a missing teenager?
Yes, yeah, I call them all security and I let them know who we're looking for.
And to the best of your knowledge, so do the Danvers police have a Twitter page and a Facebook page?
Yes, and I notified the sergeant on duty that we should have his picture put on the Facebook so that people could get that in social media and know that we have a missing person.
And did you at any point that evening have occasion to see what was put up on Facebook or Twitter by the Danvers police?
Yes.
Sure. Sure. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the first time attorneys ask to approach the witness, they do so because they're approaching your evidence, since you're the only judges of the facts. I don't require that they do that other than the first time they approach each witness, but I do require it the first time out of respect for your role as the judges of the facts and them approaching your evidence.
Sir, could you please take a look at those four items and let me know if you recognize those postings?
Yes. Yeah, I recognize those as the Facebook that they put out, or the Twitter type of post to the media.
Is it in fact both Facebook and Twitter?
I'm not sure. I believe it is both of them, yeah. Facebook and Twitter, I believe.
I would ask that these be marked at this time.
You're not for identification.
Thank you. Sir, from where you're located in the police station, can you see if someone's come into the station?
Yeah, there's a window there. You can look through and see who's coming in through the front.
At some point, did you become aware that Diana Chism had actually reported to the sation?
Yeah, I believe they said that she'd come in to sign the paperwork.
And what are you able to do as a result of the paperwork being signed?
Well, with the juvenile, the person's already entered and is missing. So we have a section where we literally file the paperwork, but that's about...
It's really a formality with the juvenile, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. And over the course of the rest of the evening, let me ask you this, did you leave at your regular time of 1 o'clock that night?
Yes.
Okay. Over the course of the next, say, 4 or 5 hours, did you continue to dispatch officers to various locations in Danvers?
Yes.
In addition to that, did you have occasion to call in additional officers?
Yes, we called, I believe it was the state police. I believe we let them know.
You called the state police, and at some point did you have occasion to call in the next shift of officers ahead of time?
I believe Officer Frost called the next shift in. That's the house officer at the front desk. I don't recall calling in any other officer.
Okay. And did you have any involvement in calling in other personnel in addition to police officers that evening?
I don't believe I did. That might have been my partner's.
Okay. And you indicated there were 2 dispatchers
Yes.
working. Is that fair to say? Okay. I have nothing further, Your Honor, for this witness.
Any cross-examination? All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Commonwealth's next witness, please, Ms. McDougall. Ladies and gentlemen, we can take a recess at any time the jurors need it. If anyone needs a recess before 11 o'clock, just let us know. Otherwise, we'll take the morning recess at 11 o'clock.
Officer, if you could stop right here, turn and face the clerk.
Sir, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Good morning, sir. There's been a motion to sequester witnesses in the case, so until all the evidence in the trial is over, you may only be in court when you're testifying. You can't talk about your testimony with the other witnesses, or let them talk about theirs with you. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. In a loud, clear voice, can you introduce yourself to the jury?
Sure. My name is Lawrence Nestor. I'm an employee of the town of Topsfield for the Topsfield Police Department.
And sir, could you spell your first and last names, please?
Sure. It's Lawrence is the first name, and the last name is Nestor.
And sir, in fact, do you have 2 different roles for the town of Topsfield?
Yeah. Prior to us closing the dispatch center, I was an emergency center operator and a reserve patrolman for the town.
And in your role, fair to say now Topsfield uses a regional 911 system?
Yes.
Back in October of 2013, was Topsfield responsible for its own dispatch?
It was.
And you were one of the dispatchers at that time?
Correct.
What shift did you work in October of 2013?
I was working on the 4 to 12 shift.
4 p.m. to 12 a.m.?
4 p.m. to 12 a.m.
And how many officers are working for the town of Topsfield during that time period?
We had 1 person who worked the desk, and you had 2 officers on the road.
Where is the Topsfield Police Station located?
It's on Boston Street, which is Route 1 in the town of Topsfield.
And using the fairgrounds as a landmark,
Yes.
Where is the police station located with respect to the fairgrounds?
It's right across the street from the fairgrounds.
And on the night of October 22nd, were you aware of anything going on in the town nearby?
Yeah, within the dispatch center, we would monitor the radio traffic from the towns that are around us, and we were, heard Danvers was looking for a missing student for a better part of the night.
And at some point, did you hear other personnel being dispatched to Danvers?
I think it was must have been just about a half hour before I left for the night. The state police CPAC unit was called into the woods behind the Danvers High School.
And what concerns did that raise for you?
Objection.
As it relates to not the truth, but the state of mind induced in the witness as to the testimony that will follow, I'll allow it. But does counsel need to be heard, or do you have the reason in mind?
I just renew my objection.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this information is not offered for its truth, but as it relates to the state of mind of the witness, what he had heard for the questions that follow.
Sir, what was your concern when you heard State Police CPAC being dispatched to Danvers?
It means to us, it means that there's a dead body that they have to deal with.
And who were you concerned that body was at that time?
I believed it was the missing student from Danvers.
When you left, did you get off right around midnight that night?
I did. The other dispatcher came on at 12, and I, talked for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then I left at that point.
And what route do you take home?
I drive Route 1 south towards Danvers.
Can you describe Route 1 in that area south of the police station for us?
Sure. It's a 2-lane road. It's a 50-mile-an-hour road. It's just long and straight.
What's the lighting like?
Not very many street lights. There's no sidewalks or street lights. It's just a kind of a poorly lit section of road.
And is it a business area, a residential area?
From that stretch, it's primarily woods, and there's one farmhouse up on each side of Route 1 as you approach Danvers, so it's not populated.
And about how far, if you know, from the Topsfield police station, if you make your way down Route 1 south before you hit the Danvers line?
I believe it's a little over 2 miles.
And as you were driving away from the police station, did something catch your attention?
Yeah, it was as I was cresting the hill, right as you leave the station. I just saw out of my right side. I saw a black male walking along. He was walking north on the southbound side of the highway.
And where was he with respect to the highway?
He wasn't walking next to it. He was off. There's a section of woods and stone wall. He was off to the right, next to the wall.
And what, if anything, did you do as a result of seeing that?
It just looked out of place to me, so I just continued on. I went up over the hill, turned around, and came back. And as I came back, I just kind of glanced to my left, and I noticed that he was walking away from that one farmhouse, and he was continuing to walk along the stone wall on off the highway as he was going northbound at that point.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do then?
At that point, I called the station to let them know that it just didn't look right. There was something out of place. There was a guy walking along the wood line along Route 1.
And did you have any further involvement that night?
No.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Regan, did you have cross-examination?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, you testified that you saw him walking by the farmhouse, correct?
Yeah, it was close enough to the driveway where the driveway comes down onto Route 1 that I didn't realize if he was coming from the farmhouse or going to the farmhouse, so that's when I turned around to come back and saw that he was walking beyond it.
But you did not see him coming to or from the farmhouse?
No, not at all.
He was walking parallel to the road, but some distance in?
Yeah.
And so there's Route 1, the road,
Yep.
and then there's like a grassy kind of area,
Yeah.
and then is there a stone wall?
Yeah, I would call it like a wooded tree line, and a stone wall runs along the Route 1.
And he was between that stone wall and the road, but in?
He was more towards the wall than Route 1, if that's what you're asking.
But he wasn't on the other side of the wall from?
No.
No further questions, thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sure thing.
Call us next witness, please.
Officer Neal, Hobey.
Officer, if you could stop here, turn and face the clerk.
Sir, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
yourself comfortable. Thank you, sir. Have a seat. Make yourself comfortable if you could, please. Good morning, sir. I've issued an order that witnesses only be in the courtroom when they're testifying until the evidence is over, and that they not talk about their testimony with other witnesses, so let other witnesses discuss their testimony with them. Thank you, sir. Would you do it, please?
Good morning, sir. In a loud, clear voice, can you introduce yourself to the jury, please?
Neal, Hobey.
And how do you spell your first and last names?
Neal, Neal, Hobey, Hovey.
And, sir, how are you employed?
As a patrolman for the Topsfield Police Department.
How long have you been a patrolman for the town of Topsfield?
12 years, part-time, 5 years, full-time.
And drawing your attention to October 22nd of 2013, were you scheduled to work that night?
The midnight going into the 23rd, yes.
Okay. Where were you earlier in the evening before you went into work?
I was at home.
And what city or town do you live in?
Danvers.
At some point, did you become aware of something that was going on in your town, Danvers?
Yes.
And how did you become aware of it?
When I arrived home, my daughter, that attends Danvers High School, said that she had seen on a social media site, a Facebook, that there was a missing 14-year-old.
And did she show you a picture, or did you have occasion to see a picture at any time?
No, I did not.
In addition to the information you got from your daughter and social media, did you receive any other information at the house regarding a missing teenager?
No description, just she said what his name was. We also received a reverse 911 call from the town of Danvers, notifying us that there was a missing 14-year-old, and could you check your property to see if you see anything of unusual nature.
And did you do that?
Yes, we turned on the spotlights in the backyard. We opened up the door, we took a quick glance out, and we didn't see anything.
And at some point, when did you leave your house to go to work in Topsfield?
I'm not sure exactly, around 11:30, possibly.
When you arrived at the station, let me ask you this, how many other officers were working with you that early morning of October 23rd?
One other officer.
And who was that?
Officer Joseph deBenardo.
When you arrived at the station, what, if anything, did you do to get ready for your shift?
When I arrived, I had learned that Danvers was extending their search, which I believe to be the missing 14-year-old, to the rail trail heading towards Topsfield.
And can you describe for us what the rail trail is?
The rail trail is it's a public way. It's a stone dust platform. It's through the woods. There's only natural light.
And what's its intended purpose?
For people, for our walking pathway.
And where does it extend? Where does it cover?
From Danvers, it goes into Wenham and then into Topsfield.
So there is a end of the rail trail that is in Topsfield, is that fair to say?
It goes through Topsfield, and I believe it extends into Boxford.
Okay. And based on what you heard about the extent of the search coming out of Danvers, what, if anything, did you intend to do when you started working that evening, or early morning, I guess?
Well, as a concerned parent, I have children of my own. And the cruiser that I was assigned to has a thermal imaging camera on it. So I decided prior to my shift that I would go out and in the area of the rail trail in Topsfield, I would check that area and see if I could identify anything.
And did you ultimately end up doing that?
No, I never made it out of the driveway.
And why was that?
I received a phone call on my cell phone from the dispatcher of the 4 to 12 shift, and he had stated that CPAC was called.
And what did that mean to you?
To me, that meant that CPAC is usually only called in as the detective division by the state police assigned to the district attorney's office. Usually we call them in when there's a death of another or a serious crime is committed.
And at that point, based on what you knew, which of those options did you unfortunately think it was?
I had believed at that time that the search had ended, and I specifically said to the dispatcher, I can't believe a 14-year-old's life would be that bad that he would kill himself.
So that was sort of your working assumption at that time?
At that time it was.
And at that point, what did you go about doing in terms of working your shift?
I turned around in the driveway. I went back to the station, and we have housekeeping chores that we did, and I started doing some of those chores in the garage.
Okay. At some point, were you dispatched to respond to something?
Yes, I was.
And what was that?
There was a report that there was a black male walking northbound on Route 1 in the southbound lane.
And is there anything of concern to you as a Topsail police officer about people walking on Route 1?
There's always a concern.
And can you explain that?
Well, it's just a two-lane road, not very well lit in certain areas. There's no sidewalk in the majority of the roadway. The speed of the vehicles, so we consider it not a safe place to walk.
And what type of action do you typically take with respect to pedestrians on Route 1?
We encourage them to either we'll give them a ride off the roadway or to find another path.
Now, when you got that report, what did you do?
I immediately got in my cruiser and came out of the police station driveway and then turned right, now going southbound on Route 1.
And do you know about what time this was that you got the call about someone walking on Route 1?
I believe the dispatch time was around 12:28 in the morning, or 28 past the hour.
So this probably goes without saying, but what was the lighting like out at 12:28 in the morning?
It was dark.
And when you left the station, did you know where your fellow officer, Officer deBenardo, was?
He was with me at the station.
In the same cruiser?
No, in a different cruiser. We were in the garage together.
Okay. And typically, for a call like that, would you both respond?
Yes.
As you pulled out, you said you made a right onto Route 1, is that correct?
Yes.
And how far did you travel approximately?
I would say approximately 0.2 of a mile.
Okay. And what caused you to stop at that 0.2 of a mile mark?
Well, as I was proceeding to the area of the dispatch area, we confirmed the area. They said Boston Street near Salem Road. When I was driving up the hill southbound, I at the last minute observed a black male that was at an indentation of the guardrail, and it was at the last minute.
And what did you?
It was too late to stop then, so I went a little beyond. I did a 3-point turn, and then I came back northbound in the northbound lane.
What type of a vehicle were you operating, Officer Hobey?
I was in a marked police cruiser.
Was it a sedan type or a larger vehicle?
A Ford sedan.
And when you came around, what did you have in terms of lights or any other notifications on your vehicle?
My blue emergency lights.
What was the purpose of that at that time?
Well, I had stopped in the middle of the roadway, so to alert any other motorists, and when I was exiting the motor vehicle for my own safety.
If I could just have a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
May I approach the witness?
Sure.
Showing you a photograph, Officer Hobey. Do you recognize what that photograph depicts?
Yes, I do.
Does that photograph depict the area of Route 1 where you first made contact with the male?
Yes, it does.
I would ask this be marked as the first exhibit, Your Honor.
No objection.
Admitted.
If I could just have a moment to speak to Ms. Regan, Your Honor.
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, the lawyers will sometimes ask to consult with each other just so that they can have a moment to see if there may be ways that they can just either come to an agreement on an issue or alert each other as to their intentions in an area of inquiry. And they do that to be efficient, and that's the only reason that that's going on. Thank you.
Your Honor, with counsel's permission, I believe there's a map I would ask to display to see if the witness, who would help the witness in assisting the jury.
And this is used as a chalk, you mean, as opposed to in evidence?
Correct.
All right. Any objection to that being used as a chalk? Okay, that may be yours.
And, sir, are you familiar, you've indicated you live in Danvers, you're familiar with these various locations in the town of Danvers, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I think you have a screen in front of you, if that would be easier for you. I could not see that from where you are. So. And drawing your attention to the star on the map. So you would agree with me that all of the areas depicted in the red outline are the town of Danvers, correct?
Yes.
And then there's a star to the north of that that appears to go over a river. Do you recognize that location?
If that is Route 1, then yes.
Okay. If I tell you the white line is Route 1 and the blue line is the Ipswich River, does that help orient you?
Yes.
Okay. And is that star essentially depict where you made contact with the male?
Yes.
And if we can now display the photograph that was just marked as Exhibit 1. And sir, I'm going to give you a pointer, and you may need, with the court's permission, to step down, because I'll tell you right now it will not work on the one behind you, but it will work on that one. And it's the green button. And you may be able to do it from where you are. Could you just indicate for the jury where you first made contact with the male on the side of Route 1?
You need to step down so you do so.
Oh, I think my fault. The payment's turned it on.
Okay.
That's why I have helpers. Is it on? Yeah.
So my encounter was right in that area.
Right in that area?
Yes.
Okay, and there's, correct me if I'm wrong, there's sort of a barrier. Is that a bridge?
Yeah, there's a barrier on both sides. It's a bridge that goes over the Ipswich River.
So was it just at the sort of beginning of the barrier or the bridge that you first made contact?
It was a little, it was maybe a little closer to halfway, but not quite halfway.
Okay. Thank you. The exhibit can come down.
And can you mark the chalk for identification
Still on.
as well, please? We don't have to do it right now if you don't need it. But at some point, the chalk will mark for identification.
Yes. Okay. Officer Hobey, I think I got a little bit ahead of us, but you indicated you did a three-point turn and you pulled over. What did the male do when you pulled over?
When I pulled over, he stopped as well.
Okay. And he's now on the other side of the highway from you?
Yeah, that is correct.
Two-lane highway, though it may be.
Two-lane, yes. He's in the south lane. I'm in the northbound.
Okay. And did you get out of your cruiser?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go?
When it was safe, I crossed the street to the southbound lane.
I'm going to ask you if you could project your voice up louder, if you could, please, officer.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
As you approached the male, were you able to see what he was wearing?
As I approached, yes.
What was he wearing?
He had a turquoise, full-zippered, hooded sweatshirt, a black shirt, black shorts, knee-high length socks. He had blue Adidas sneakers with a greenish, yellowish stripe on the sneakers, and he also had a red and black nylon backpack, sort of a satchel, pull-string backpack.
At that point, could you see whether there was anything around his neck?
Around his neck, when I got closer, I could see there was pulled down. There was a clump of clothing that we learned to be a ski mask.
And what was the temperature like, if you recall, that evening?
It was cool. I believe it was 47 degrees.
And when you approached the male, in what direction was he looking?
He was facing northbound.
Continuing to look up Route 1?
Yes.
Essentially looking the point of view of the person who took that picture?
That is correct.
Okay. And where were you with respect to him? Where did you position yourself?
To his right side.
So you're essentially talking to his right shoulder and his profile? Is that fair to say?
Yes, about 4 or 5 feet away from him.
And what, if any, communication did you have with him at that time?
I asked him where he was going.
And what did he tell you?
He said nowhere.
And what else did you ask him?
I then asked him where he was coming from, and he stated Tennessee.
And based on the condition of his clothing, did it appear to you he'd been out for a long time?
And no, it did not.
What other further questions did you ask him at that time?
I again asked him, because those were not typical responses, I again asked him where he was going, and he again stated nowhere.
And what was the lighting like in the area where you were making contact with this male at this time?
It was dark.
Were you able to see his face?
I was able to see, yes, I was.
Let me ask you this, sir. The person that you made contact with on the side of Route 1 that early morning, do you see that person in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Could you please point him out and describe something he's wearing?
He has a black jacket on, he has glasses on, a white shirt, and a tie.
May the record reflect identification of the defendant?
With no objection, it may.
Now, sir, at some point had Officer deBenardo arrived?
Yes.
And did he join in your conversation with the defendant?
Yes, he did.
Can you just describe what any further conversation you had with the defendant first, specifically yourself?
I asked him where he lived, and he stated he has no address.
Did you ask him anything at that time about who he was?
I asked him if he had an ID on him.
And what did he tell you?
No.
In your earshot, Officer deBenardo ask him anything?
When Officer deBenardo arrived, he asked him to take his hands out of his pockets.
And which pockets were his hands in?
In his sweatshirt pocket.
Okay. And did the defendant respond?
Yes, he did.
Meaning he took his hands out of his pockets?
Yes.
Okay. And did Officer deBenardo ask him anything else?
He asked him what was in the backpack.
How big of a backpack was it, meaning how full?
It was full in nature.
Okay. And what did the defendant say when Officer deBenardo asked him what was in the backpack?
He stated survival gear.
At that point, sir, what did you do with respect to the defendant?
At that point, my partner took the backpack from the party.
Okay. And did you do anything ultimately with respect to the defendant's person?
After that, we, because of the dark natures of the road, we escorted him across the street to a safer location for us between the two police cruisers.
Okay. And what was safer about that location between the two police cruisers?
Well, we had the emergency lighting, we had the protection of the police cars.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do with respect to the defendant when you reached the other side of the road?
We had him stand at the trunk of the first police cruiser, my police cruiser, between the two cars.
Okay. At the trunk of your cruiser before the hood of Officer deBenardo's cruiser?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened next?
At that time, I asked him to remove the contents from his pockets and put them on the trunk of my cruiser.
And did he do that?
Yes, he did.
And when you say pockets, which pockets are we talking about?
The pockets of his shorts.
And had you, how did you know that there was anything in the pockets of his shorts?
On the other side of the street, I did a pat frisk of his front left and right pockets.
And can you just explain to the jury what a pat frisk is?
A pat frisk is that we look for dangerous weapons for an area that we can't visibly see because of either clothing obstructions or lighting, and it was extremely dark that evening.
So we
just gently touched the area.
Okay. And what had you felt when you touched the area of the defendant's short pockets?
In the left front pocket, it was a hard plastic, similar to an identification card or a credit card. It was a hard piece of plastic.
And in the other pocket, what did you feel?
There was a oblong object, hard oblong object in the right pocket.
And ultimately, when the defendant took the things out of his pocket on the hood of Officer deBenardo's cruiser, rather, what did those objects prove to be?
What was the hard plastic objects? There was 2 Massachusetts driver's licenses. There was credit cards, and there was an insurance card. In the other pocket was the hard oblong object, turned out to be a rock.
I could just have one moment.
Sure. Members of the jury, in addition to keeping in mind, letting me know at any point that you need a recess and feeling free to stand during the testimony at any point over there, I'd also ask you to let us know, raise your hand, just let us know if you're having difficulty hearing anything. It's important that you hear every bit of the testimony.
Hobey handing you some items. Do you recognize those items?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those items to be?
It was the two Massachusetts driver's licenses and the credit cards and the insurance cards.
And are those the cards and identifications that you found in the defendant's pocket the early morning of October 23rd?
Yes, it is.
And whose Massachusetts identification and driver's license are those?
Colleen Ritzer.
At that time, sir, did that name have any meaning to you?
No, it did not.
I would ask these be marked as the next exhibit, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, sir.
There's two. When those items came out of the defendant's pocket, what, if anything, did you or Officer deBenardo ask him?
After I examined the IDs, I looked at the party and I asked him, "What is your name?"
And what did he tell you?
Philip Chism.
And did that name have any significance to you?
Yes, it did.
How did you recognize that name?
By what my daughter had told me before I left for work.
You knew that to be the missing teen out of Danvers.
That is correct.
Did that knowledge in any way change the encounter you were having with the defendant?
Well, I went from concern for my own safety to almost a parent mode where I really couldn't believe, I was in disbelief that I had found the missing 14-year-old and that I was able to bring a 14-year-old home safely to his parents.
And what steps did you take in order to go about making that happen at that time?
At that time, we asked him a few more questions, but then my partner said to him, "Why don't you get warm and sit in the back seat of the cruiser, and we're going to bring you to the police station."
And when you say you asked a few more questions, what were those questions about?
We asked him where he got these identifications.
And what did he tell you?
He stated he found them.
Did one of you ask him further questions about that?
We both did. I asked him where he found them, and he stated Stop and Shop.
Do you know where the closest Stop and Shop is to where you stopped him?
It's in Danvers, about 3 miles away.
And was there any further questioning about that?
My partner asked him which Stop and Shop, and he said, I do not know.
And now, sir, I'm handing you another item. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that as?
This was the rock that was in his right pocket.
So identifications and credit cards in the left pocket and rock in the right pocket?
That is correct.
I would ask that be marked as the next exhibit.
No, sir.
Exhibit 3 somewhere. Officer Hobey, after the conversation about the identifications coming from Stop and Shop, was there any further conversation with the defendant at the roadside?
I asked him where he got these, and he said from her car.
And was there further questioning?
Counter.
And you've indicated, I think, that there's a plexiglass between that counter and the bench.
That is correct.
And what did you have with you?
I had the backpack and the contents from his pockets.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do with respect to his backpack at that time?
I put him on the counter.
Put it on the counter?
Yes.
Okay. Where it was on the counter, was it visible to the defendant through the plexiglass?
Yes.
And did you have any conversation with him about his backpack at that time?
I asked him if there's anything dangerous in the backpack that would cause harm to myself.
And is that a routine question you ask before inventorying anything?
Yes, it is.
And what, if anything, did the defendant respond?
He stated yes.
Now, you had indicated that on the side of the road the defendant was not making eye contact with you. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In the station, where was he looking?
Looking straight ahead.
But he indicated, yes, there was something in the backpack. Is that correct?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you do at that time?
I grew a little more concerned about what was dangerous about it. I put on a pair of gloves, and then it was like a pull string, so I started inching it open so I could see the inside of the contents.
And when you say a drawstring, is it like the kind of backpack you get for running a race, or you get as a, can't think of the word, but like a favor for running a race or something?
Yes, it was a nylon satchel, yes.
And as you opened it, what was the first item that you were able to see and retrieve?
A white wallet.
And what kind of a wallet was it?
More of a purse type white wallet.
Did it appear female? I'm not asking you the brand, I promise. Did it appear female?
Female, yes.
Wallet? Okay. And did you notice anything about the condition of the wallet?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
What, if anything, did you do at that time with respect to the wallet?
I placed that on the counter.
Okay. What was the next thing that you did?
There was a multicolored, actually Vera Bradley, soft zippered case that I removed. Then there was a white, a blue with white stripe Nike shirt, athletic shirt that was specifically sized large. It said 14 to 16 on it. There was a sheer underwear in the color of like bluish greenish color. There was two Camelback water bottles, a set of keys. There was 2 rolls of 2-inch tape, one roll being black and white, the other roll being red and like a duct tape, similar to a duct tape. There was a set of keys. There was a white towel. There was a flashlight that was orange and black. There was what I would consider a scuba diving knife that was in a sheath.
Was it in any kind of packaging?
No, it was like it goes around your waist, so it had a sheath, and the knife was inside the sheath.
And as you removed each of these items from the bag, where did you place them?
Placed them on the counter.
And and were there other sort of miscellaneous items in the bag as well?
Yes, there was.
What kinds of things were they?
Miscellaneous papers and other contents.
And once the bag was emptied, what did you do next?
At that time, I opened up the white purse, the white wallet.
That first item you had removed?
Yes.
And when you opened that, what did you observe?
I observed a box cutter, an aluminum steel colored traditional box cutter.
And what, if anything, did you notice about the condition of the box cutter?
That the blade was still protruding out, and it had a reddish, brownish colored substance on the box cutter.
And as you observed that, what, if anything, did you do?
Then I asked him, whose blood is this?
And when you say you asked him, who did you ask?
I asked the defendant.
And how did he respond?
He said, it's the girls.
Sure.
So had you picked it up or done anything to display it to him at that time?
No, I had the wallet in my hand, and the box cutter was in the wallet.
Okay. And after he said it's the girls, what, if anything, did you do?
We stopped everything.
And did you remain in the room at that time?
At that time, my partner read him his Miranda rights.
And where did you go?
I stayed there for that process.
And once that process was complete, what did you do?
Then I left the room and went into the dispatch area.
And what was your purpose in doing that?
To call Danvers police and tell them what we had found.
And at some point, how long were you in the other room communicating with dispatch?
2 or 3 minutes.
When you returned to the room, Did you have an opportunity to make any further observations of the defendant's person or the condition of his clothing?
My partner brought to my attention 2 pieces of clothing.
And what were those 2 pieces of clothing?
The jacket that he was wearing, the sweatshirt that he was wearing, and the sneakers.
And what did you notice about the jacket and the sneaker, or the sweatshirt and the sneakers?
At that time, my partner had taken those 2 objects away from the defendant, and then he pointed out to me the similar brown, reddish stains that were on the jacket, and also the same similar stains on the sneakers.
And when you say similar, do you mean similar to those on the box cutter?
Yes.
If I could just have a moment, Your Honor. Showing you an item, Officer Hobey, do you recognize that item?
Yes, I do.
And I'm going to suggest you use the gloves to handle it, but I'm going to tell you, I could barely get them on my hands. You might not be able to, but if you want to just use them. If you could just hold that up and let us know how you recognize it. Oh, I think we have bigger ones.
This was the backpack that he was wearing.
And that's the backpack he was wearing when you first encountered him on Route 1, and then you inventoried at the station. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that in essentially the same condition it was in when you saw it on the night of, or the early morning of October 23rd?
Yes, it is.
I'd ask this be marked as the next exhibit, Your Honor. Showing you another item, do you recognize that item?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that item to be?
That was the wallet that I pulled out of the backpack.
And that was one of the first items that you pulled out, is that fair to say?
Yes, it is.
And is that in essentially the same condition it was in when you found it on October 23rd?
Yes.
I would ask that be marked as the next exhibit, Your Honor. And I would ask for permission to display it, Your Honor, on the Elmo. Thank you. So, Officer Hobey, when you opened the wallet, can you describe for me where in the wallet the box cutter was?
It was in the zipped area.
In this area?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And sir, those credit card slots in the wallet, were they full or empty? If you remember.
I do not remember.
Sir, do you recognize the item I've put in front of you now?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that item to be?
That was the box cutter that was in the wallet.
And other than that the blade is now retracted, is that in essentially the same condition it was in when you found it on October 23rd?
Yes, it was.
I'd ask this be marked as the next exhibit, Your Honor. Exhibit 6. I'm going to display this, Your Honor.
You can walk it one way, you can put it on the wrong side.
Sir, is this essentially the condition of the blade when you opened the wallet that early morning?
Yes, it was.
And the writing on this side of the box cutter, was that writing already present when you found it?
It was already present.
And turning the box cutter over, was that writing also present when you found the box cutter that early morning?
Yes, it was.
Handing you another item, Officer Hobey, do you recognize that item?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize that item as?
That was what I described as a scuba diving knife in the sheath that was in the backpack as well.
And is that item in essentially the same condition it was in when you discovered it on October 23rd?
Yes, it is.
I asked this to be marked as the next exhibit, Your Honor. Exhibit 7. And if I could have Officer Hobey just pull this one up.
Sure.
And again, that's in essentially the same condition sheath that it was when you found it that morning, correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Sir, do you recognize the item I put in front of you?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize those to be?
Those were the set of keys that were also in the backpack that I pulled out.
And are those
Also in
also...
the back, I'm sorry, to interrupt. Also in the backpack,
That I pulled out.
okay, just keep your voice up, please, sir.
Sorry, sir.
And sir, are those keys in essentially the same condition that they were in that morning?
Yes.
I'd ask they be marked as the next exhibit, Your Honor. And if I could display these on the online, Your Honor.
Name.
Exhibit 8, so marked.
Did you notice at the time, Officer Hobey, the red-brown marks that are on some of these items?
I did not.
Thank you. You referenced 2 Camelback water bottles, officer, do you remember that?
Yes, I did.
And do you recognize the items I put in front of you?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize those to be?
Those are the 2 water bottles that were in the backpack.
And are they in the same condition they were in?
Yes, they are.
I would ask those be marked as the next exhibit, but I'm afraid I've torn the bag.
No objection.
Exhibit 9.
Sir, do you recognize the next item I put in front of you?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize that to be?
That was the foot powder spray that was in the backpack.
And is that like an athletic foot powder? Like a prevent athlete's foot, frankly?
I believe so.
Okay. And is that canister in essentially the same condition it was in that early morning?
Yes, it is.
I'd ask that be marked as the next exhibit.
Exhibit 10.
Officer Hobey, you had described some miscellaneous items in the bag, tape, pieces of paper, a flashlight. Do you recognize the contents of that bag as being sort of the balance of the contents of the backpack, other than other specific items you've described?
Yes, I do.
And are those in essentially the same condition, if maybe a little more jumbled than they were when you found them on the early morning of October 23rd?
Yes.
I believe by agreement these can go on as one exhibit, Your Honor. Now, Officer Hovey, at some point, did you have occasion to more carefully inventory the paper in the defendant's backpack?
Yes, I did.
And showing you specifically 2 receipts marked Wendy's, do you recognize those as being receipts that you located among the paper in the defendant's backpack?
Yes.
And are those in essentially the same condition they were in that morning?
Yes.
I'd ask those be marked as the next exhibit.
Exhibit 12, so marked.
And handing you a receipt for the Liberty Tree Mall movie theater. Do you recognize that item, sir?
Yes, I do.
And where was that item located?
With the miscellaneous papers.
In the defendant's backpack?
That is correct.
And is there a name printed on that receipt? It's very small.
Yes, there is.
What is that name?
Colleen Ritzer.
And I would ask that that be marked as the next exhibit.
Exhibit 13, so marked.
Sir, I've handed you another item. Do you recognize what those are?
Yes, I do.
And what are those?
They're bluish, greenish, teal-colored sheer underwear
And where were those located?
in the backpack.
And other than some cutting done by the crime lab, are those in essentially the same condition they were in when you discovered them on October 23rd?
Yes, they do.
I would move these as the next exhibit, Your Honor. Officer Hobey, after you heard the statement regarding the girl and you went into dispatch, did you have any further conversation with the defendant at all that night?
I answered some direct questions from him, but I had no questions of him.
And what were those questions regarding?
He asked me if he could have his sneakers back or he was going to remain shoeless. And he also asked if he could have something to eat. And then he asked if he could have something to drink.
And how did you respond to those questions?
I said, no, not at this time.
And essentially, who was in charge of the defendant as of the time that you had contact with Danvers?
Officer deBenardo was with him.
If I could just have a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
I have nothing further for Officer Hobey.
Thank you. Officer, please.
Morning.
Good morning, sir.
So the first question to him was, where are you going?
Yes.
All right. He didn't turn to you?
No, he did not.
Didn't look at you?
No, he did not.
No facial expression to acknowledge your question?
That's correct.
But he did answer it.
Yes, he did.
He said nowhere.
Correct.
And after he said that, he still didn't turn to you?
That's correct.
No facial expression?
That's correct.
No eye contact?
That's correct.
So, and that was what his demeanor was the whole time he was out there on the roadside with you?
That's correct, sir.
Never varied?
Excuse me, sir?
He never varied, never deviated?
Correct.
You never felt you made any connection with him at all?
That's correct.
Did he appear to be staring off in the distance?
Yes.
And were you able to see his face during this encounter?
I was standing to the side of him, and then there was some front facing. So, yes.
Yeah. And did you notice anything else about his facial expression while you were standing there?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
But he just kept staring?
Yes.
Would you characterize him as dazed?
As though that he wasn't understanding.
And you came back to the same question again pretty quickly, right? You asked him a second time.
That's correct.
And again, he said nowhere.
Correct.
And then you had some more conversation with him on the other side of the road. You moved him over there between the cruisers, right?
That's correct.
You gave him instructions.
That's correct.
Empty his pockets.
That's correct.
And when you did that, did he look at you?
He looked straight ahead, but he was compliant.
So he's and what direction is he looking while you're giving him those instructions?
Straight ahead.
Well, what direction is he facing?
Northbound.
All right. And the car trunk is in front of him?
That's correct.
He's not looking side to side?
No, he's not.
All right. Where was your partner while you were giving him those instructions?
He was behind him to his left side.
Was he speaking at all?
He did.
Did he turn toward your partner when your partner spoke?
No, he did not.
But he complied with your instructions?
Yes, he did.
And then, forgive me if you already said this, but who drove him back to the station? Which car was he in?
I did, sir.
All right. So, are you alone in the car with him at that point?
Yes, sir.
All right. I assume he's in the back seat?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you try to make any conversation with him?
No, I did not, sir.
All right. Did he say anything?
No, he did not.
He just sat there?
Yes, he did.
And when you were putting him in the car, did he turn to you or ask you anything?
My partner put him in the car, sir.
Right. Did you watch it?
Yes.
Okay. And how did he respond with your partner moving him into the back seat of the car?
My partner said to him, "Let's get you warm, sit in the back seat of the cruiser," and he said, "Okay," or "Yes."
He said, "Okay"?
Yes.
Okay. And then somebody had to help him up the stairs in the station from the garage up into the booking area?
It's normal and customary for us.
All right. So was there any conversation with him then?
No, there was not.
So from the moment you first approach him on the street until you're up in the booking area and going through his inventorying his property more or less in front of him, the only thing he ever said up to that point was okay?
Other than answering the questions.
And then he answered your questions, your direct questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you looked through the things you found in the backpack, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you identified what the different paper items were, correct?
Correct.
You noticed the receipts and you noticed the person's name on them, correct?
Correct.
When you were going through those papers, was there any contact information for anybody else amongst those papers?
Not that I recall.
No address? Was there a phone number on a piece of paper or anything like that?
Nothing that I recall, sir.
And well, one of the things you wanted to know was where was he going, right? That was your first question to him.
Yes.
Right. But there was nothing you found in those papers that indicated that somebody was going to meet or some place he was going to,
That's correct.
or somebody he was going to call.
That's correct.
He's just walking north on Route 1.
That's correct.
What's up there?
The next community would be Ipswich.
And that's a fairly rural area also he would be walking along Route 1?
Yes, sir.
All right. And the further you go, the more rural it gets. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
All right. I think you said that when your partner asked him in your presence what was in the bag, did he use the expression survival gear?
Yes, he did.
Could you characterize that scuba knife as a survival knife?
Yes, I could.
All right. And in that bag, I'm not going to ask you to go through it, was there some hand warmers in there?
Yes, there was.
All right. Is there anything else you could think of as something somebody would take into the wilderness with them?
Nothing that I haven't already identified.
Okay. And just to be clear, he wasn't wearing that knife and holster when you approached him.
No, he was not.
And the box cutter that was completely secreted inside the wallet and inside the backpack.
That's correct.
Right. So in fact, he didn't have any accessible weapons on his person when you stopped him on the road.
I didn't know what he had on his person.
Right. But that's how it turned out after you checked into it.
Yes, sir.
And the credit cards and identification with Miss Ritzer's name on it were in the pocket for his shorts?
Yes, sir.
Including the driver's license?
2 driver's licenses.
2 driver's licenses. By the way, after he answered your question about the apparent blood on the box cutter, and I think you said that Officer deBenardo then read him his Miranda rights. What did you do?
After I witnessed that, then I left and went into the dispatch area.
Okay. And what did you do when you got to the dispatch area?
I called Danvers Police.
Okay. Didn't you have any? Did it occur to you to try to ask him any more about this box cutter and the blood on it?
At that time, I did not ask.
Were you instructed not to question him when you talked to Danvers?
The second phone call from Danvers, I was instructed not to.
All right. So even if you were either curious or concerned about the person whose blood it was, you'd been told not to ask any more questions. Is that a fair assessment?
On the second phone call, yes.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In a loud, clear voice, can you introduce yourself to the jury, please?
Sure. Officer Joseph deBenardo.
And how do you spell your first and last name, sir?
First name Joseph, last name DEBERNARDO.
And sir, how are you employed?
A full-time police officer with the town of Topsfield.
I'm just going to ask you to speak as if you're speaking to somebody out in the hallway.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Officer deBenardo, how long have you been in that position?
Full-time, over 5 years, with the Topsfield Police, over 10.
And did you have any other employment in law enforcement or working for a law enforcement agency prior to joining Topsfield?
I did.
What was that?
I was actually a dispatcher with Danvers Police Department. I was also a correction officer in Middlesex County and Sheriff's Department. I also worked for college campuses as well.
And sir, drawing your attention to the shift that begins at midnight on October 22nd into October 23rd, were you working that shift?
I was.
And with whom were you working that shift on? And to be clear, the year is 2013.
Officer Neal Hobey.
Now, when you, do you remember about what time you arrived for your shift that night?
Just before midnight.
And you and Officer Hobey were the only officers on patrol that night, would that be fair to say?
After midnight, correct.
Okay. And at some point, were you dispatched to a particular location in the town of Topsfield?
We were.
And what location is that?
The location was Route 1 southbound. It was south of our police station. It was between South Main Street and Salem Road.
And are either of those roads which you used as markers particularly close to the location where you actually eventually stopped?
Yes.
Which one?
South Main Street.
And can you describe for us, please, the order in which yourself and Officer Hovey left the station that early morning when you got the call?
Absolutely. We have a garage in the basement of our station. The way we pull our patrol units in, my cruiser was the furthest in. Officer Hovey pulled out first, and I was second. I made sure to close the door and secure that door, and then I went off onto the call as well.
And what do you need to do to secure that door?
We just have a remote right on the visor. Hit the remote itself, electronic closes the door.
And I'm just going to ask you to keep your voice up a little
Yes,
bit.
ma'am.
Okay. And when you pulled out of the station, where did you head?
At that point, once I turned southbound onto Route 1, towards that location on Route 1 south of South Main Street.
And can you describe for us what you observed as you made your way up the hill as you leave the police station?
As you make your way southbound on Route 1, the Topsfield Fairgrounds will be on your left-hand side. As you pass South Main Street, the area actually is poorly illuminated. You do approach a bridge that goes over the Ipswich River.
And what effect does the bridge have on the width of the road?
It actually bottlenecks. It tightens up. There's no shoulder. There's really no good area to be. So.
And let me ask you this. In general, sir, is there a sidewalk or a pedestrian walkway along that stretch of Route 1 in Topsfield?
No, there is not.
And typically, how do you handle pedestrians, people who are walking on Route 1, particularly when it's dark?
When it's dark, we try to provide a community caretaking function. We don't want to have anyone walking, any pedestrians on Route 1, especially at that nighttime. Route 1 is a poorly lit roadway. So.
And as you came around the area of that bridge, what, if anything, did you see?
At that point, Officer Hovey was making a three-point turn to reverse direction of his cruiser, and I observed a male party standing off to the shoulder of the road.
And was the male party moving or standing still at that time?
At that point, he kind of stopped walking.
Okay. Where was he facing, if you could see?
He was facing northbound, walking in the southbound lane of travel.
And do you literally mean he was standing facing northbound?
Correct.
Okay. And what steps did you take to then pull your vehicle in?
Safely made a three-point turn, reversing direction, facing northbound, pulling behind Officer Hovey's cruiser.
And was there an area for your two cruisers on the side of the road, or how were you parked with respect to the roadway?
Officer Hovey had to almost take up a lane at the bridge when he actually encountered the individual, and I actually was behind him, alleviating a little bit of distance in case of any moderate traffic, which at that time of night was still flowing. So we had to try to keep the area safe.
So where your cruiser was a little bit wider than where Officer Hovey's, would that be?
Slightly, yes.
Okay. And what did you do in terms of lighting when you stopped your cruiser?
Again, I activated my overhead blue lights. I wanted to signal any drivers who might be traveling northbound when they crest the hill to make the descent down, slow down due to our presence. I also activated my forward-facing takedown lights to illuminate the area, which was poorly lit.
Okay. And did your takedown lights have some effect on illuminating not just the cruiser in front of you, but the area in general where the male was standing?
Yes.
And when you got out of your cruiser, where did you go?
Once I got out of the cruiser, I actually walked diagonally towards Officer Hobey, who was now engaged with the individual.
And as you approached the individual, what, if anything, did you observe about his clothing or belongings?
I recall him wearing a blue or light blue hooded sweatshirt, shorts, socks, which were pulled up over his calves, and sneakers. He also had a backpack on as well.
Okay. And as you're approaching him, what view of him do you have?
I had sort of a side...
I'm sorry, sir, to interrupt you.
No problem.
So if you figure out Ms. McDougall's question before she finishes it, Don't answer it.
Yes, sir.
Wait till the entire question's out so the court reporter can get the whole question out and get your whole answer, because we need a pristine record. The
Yes, Your
Superior
Honor.
Court's a court of record.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now I don't even remember what my question was, but what side, how are you approaching him? From what side?
He would actually be like a side profile.
And could you tell whether he was in conversation with Officer Hobey?
Yes.
What, if any, conversation did you overhear as you approached?
Officer Hobey was asking him where he was from.
And how did the male answer?
He stated that he was from Tennessee.
And, sir, at that point, were you able to see the male's face clearly?
Yes, I remember him. He was wearing a hood as I started walking towards him, and he took the hood off.
Okay. And the individual who you first encountered on the side of the road that early morning, do you see the individual in court?
Yes, I do.
Could you point him out and describe what he's wearing?
Glasses, suit, gray tie.
May the record reflect identification of the defendant.
No Creighton objection? Okay.
And so, sir, when you approached the defendant, did you have any conversation with him?
My conversation was slight. I asked him, what I reflect was he kept putting his hands into his front pockets of the sweatshirt. I asked him to repeatedly remove them so I could keep an eye on his hands for officer safety reasons.
And did he respond and remove his hands?
He complied, yes.
Okay. And did you ask him anything further in addition to anything you overheard Officer Hobey ask him?
My question was, where in the backpack? I asked him what was in the backpack.
And what did he tell you?
He said it was survival gear.
And what, if anything, do you do with respect to the backpack at that point?
At that point, I asked him if he could take it off and please hand it to me.
And did he do that?
He did.
And what, if anything, did you do with the backpack at that time?
I retained it.
Meaning?
I held on to it physically.
Okay. And at some point, did the conversation amongst yourself, Officer Hobey, and the defendant move locations?
Yes, at that point, considering the traffic, we were holding up traffic. We wanted to get into a safer, more well-lit location, so we moved to the rear of Officer Hobey's police cruiser.
And how much distance was there between Officer Hobey's cruiser and the front of your cruiser?
I probably gave at least 10 feet, 12 feet.
Okay. And when you were in that location, what, if any, further observations did you make of the defendant? Or conversation did you have with the defendant?
I think it was just more it continued as such of where he was coming from. It seemed as he wasn't really answering quite. He wasn't really paying attention to us. He would look past us, staring distantly past us.
Ultimately, did Officer Hobey have him remove some items from his pockets?
He did.
And were you able to observe what those items were?
I would.
And generally, what were they?
In the left pocket, there was a stack of plastic cards, and in the right pocket was a rock.
And was there any further conversation generated by the cards?
By the cards, we noticed on the top of it was a Massachusetts driver's license to a female.
And at that time, sir, had you heard anything about Colleen Ritzer or anyone else being missing out of Danvers?
The only missing was a 14-year-old male that we previously, at the start of our shift, was passed on by patrol officers that Danvers police had entered in a missing 14-year-old juvenile.
Okay.
He did.
And when he said his name, did you recognize that?
I did.
Okay. And what, if any, steps did you or Officer Hobey take with respect to learning his identity?
At that point, we notified our dispatch to notify Danvers police that we had found Mr. Chism.
Okay. Did the tone of your encounter with the defendant change at all upon learning he was the missing teen out of Danvers?
Yes.
Can you describe that, please?
Again, very elated that we had found this 14-year-old teen. We were excited to actually hopefully get him home.
And did you have any further conversation with him, though, between the cruisers regarding the identification and credit cards that he'd had on his person?
We asked him where he had come across these IDs.
What did he tell you?
He stated he found them at a Stop and Shop.
And did you question him further?
Asked him, which Stop and Shop.
What did he tell you?
He stated he didn't know.
And are you aware of where the closest Stop and Shop is to where you made contact with him?
Approximately 2 miles south of our location in Danvers.
Okay. And was there any further conversation at that time about the origins of the identifications or the cards?
I don't believe so.
Okay. What was done at that point to, I believe you said earlier, get the defendant home?
At that point, we had heard back from Danvers Police. Danvers Police asked us to transport him back to their police station. They were dealing with another incident.
Okay. And was there a reason that you didn't immediately transport him to Danvers?
At that point, with 2 police officers on patrol, and given the jurisdiction of where Danvers Police is, there was actually unsafe practice. So we figured we wanted to actually maybe get him off the side of the road, bring him back to our police station where it was warm, and we can make further arrangements at that point.
At the risk of paraphrasing you, if one of you went to Danvers, there's only be one officer in Topsfield?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what distance was it to your police station at that time?
Approximately half a mile.
Okay. And how did the defendant get from your location back to the station?
We asked him to, get into Officer Hobey's cruiser where it was warm and we can get him to a safe location. So we guided him into the rear of the cruiser.
Okay. And did he get into the cruiser?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And when you arrived back at the police station, what, if anything, did you do to get him upstairs?
At that point, we just walked him upstairs, guiding him where to go, brought him into the booking room, which is on the 2nd floor, and had him take a seat on the wooden bench in the booking room.
Okay. And were you present while Officer Hobey inventoried the contents of his bag?
Yes.
Did you hear, let me ask you this, where were you standing with respect to Officer Hobey and with respect to the defendant?
Okay. Our booking counter, so to speak, is approximately 4 feet high, rectangular in shape. An officer who would be booking into the computer would be on one side and an individual on the wooden side. So I was right in the middle, right along the plexiglass.
Did you have a view of the items that Officer Hobey?
Girls.
What did you do at that time, Officer deBenardo?
At that point, we ceased questioning and advised him of Miranda rights through our juvenile form.
And when you say through your juvenile form, what did you physically do?
Physically produced a form, went over each Miranda step by step so he could understand each, and had him sign the form.
Did he indicate to you that did he respond to you verbally at all as you did that?
He understood each of the line items, yes.
And how do you know that? Did he tell you? Did he check? What did he do to indicate to you that he understood?
He said yes on each and then signed.
Okay. And at some point, did Officer Hobey then leave the room?
He did.
Did you have any further conversation with the defendant at that time?
I did have a brief conversation.
And what was that?
I asked him if we could, if he knew where the girl was.
What did he tell you?
He stated that she was buried in the woods.
And what did you ask him next?
I asked him if we can get to him. Can we help her?
And what did he tell you?
He said no.
And while you were having that brief exchange with him, where was the defendant looking?
Kind of down, kind of away. Again, had that distant stare, really couldn't keep eye contact. So.
And after, as you were, let me ask you this, what was your proximity to the defendant at this point when you're having the conversation with him about where the girl is?
2 to 3 feet.
And and fair to say the lighting in the booking room was better than the lighting on the road?
Much better.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to make observations of the condition of his clothing at that time?
I did.
What, if anything, caught your attention?
The sleeves of his hooded sweatshirt had a brown reddish stain. I also noticed a mask, or like a ski mask, that was down around his neck. That actually had some brown reddish stain as well. And the sneakers had brown reddish stain.
And as a result of those observations, what, if anything, did you do with respect to his clothing?
At that point, we seized those clothing and we placed them into brown bags.
May I approach this witness, Your Honor?
Sure.
Do you have gloves? I believe right here.
Showing you an item, Officer deBenardo, do you recognize that item?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you recognize that item?
This was the mask that was worn by Mr. Chism around his neck.
And if you could look at it and tell me if it's in essentially the same condition it was in when you first noticed it in the police station that night.
Yes, ma'am.
And does that item, is there a hole in the top or just, so when he had it over his neck?
Yeah,
just
he
describe
pulled
that?
this back and around his neck.
Okay, so where should be sort of the mouth opening was where he had his head through?
Yes.
Okay. I'd ask this be marked as the next exhibit here. Exhibit 15. Showing you another item. Officer deBenardo, do you recognize that item?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you recognize that item?
This was the hooded sweatshirt that Mr. Chism was wearing.
And is that in essentially the same condition that it was in when you took it from him that evening or early morning?
Yes, ma'am.
I would ask this be marked as the next exhibit, Your Honor. And Officer deBenardo, if you could just show us what you were referring to on the cuff
Yes, ma'am.
of that sweatshirt.
When I could see the left, the right, I could see these brown reddish stains. That's what first caught my eye.
Sir, showing you two other items, do you recognize those?
Yes,
What do you recognize those to be?
those are the sneakers Mr. Chism was wearing that morning.
And if you could just, are they in essentially the same condition they were in when you observed them that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you just direct the jury to where you saw some reddish stains on those?
Sure. On this right shoe, I noticed on the front part here, and there was some along the siding here as well. And there's some along the toe here, and then along the bottom part over here as well.
And that's on the left sneaker?
Left sneaker.
I'd ask those to be marked. Exhibit 17, so marked. Showing you two more items, Officer deBenardo. Understanding they may not be that distinct. Do you recognize those?
Yes, these were the socks that he had.
Okay. And you indicated they were pulled all the way up, I think you said, when you first saw him on Route 1.
Yes, ma'am.
And are those in essentially the same condition they were in when you observed them on the defendant that early morning?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd ask those be marked as the next exhibit. I placed another item in front of you. Do you recognize that, Officer deBenardo?
I do recall, yes.
And what do you recognize that to be?
This was the undershirt, the T-shirt that he was wearing.
And he was wearing that under the white shirt when you first saw him on Route 1?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't take that evening, is that correct? You just recognized those as being things he was wearing?
Correct.
I'd ask this be marked as the next.
Noted.
And finally, showing you one more item. Officer deBenardo, do you recognize that item?
Yes.
And what do you guys recognize those to be?
These were the shorts that Mr. Chism was wearing.
And are those essentially in the same condition they were in when you saw them that morning?
Yes, ma'am.
And the credit cards and the rock, where did those items come from?
Those came from the pockets.
Of those shorts?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd ask those be marked as the next exhibit. After the defendant told you no when you asked if you could help the girl in the woods, did you have any further conversation with him before he left the station?
No.
Did he ask you anything?
No.
Okay. During the rest of the time, did you stay with him to observe him?
Yes, I did.
And ultimately, who actually transported him from there to Danvers?
I did, under the direction of State Police Sergeant O'Connor.
Okay. And what vehicle did you use?
My primary patrol vehicle.
His demeanor, the way you've described it, sort of looking past you, did that continue for the rest of the time you were present with the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't have any further conversation with him, nor did he instigate any conversation?
No, ma'am.
If I could just have one.
Sure.
I have nothing further, Your Honor, with this witness.
So, how cold was it out there that night?
I remember it being approximately 40 degrees.
And did you form any judgment or opinion about the appropriateness of the clothing that Mr. Chism was wearing out there on Route 1?
I felt being in shorts, a light sweatshirt, was not appropriate for the conditions. It was chilly.
Then you saw his belongings in his backpack being emptied out by your fellow officer, correct?
Yes.
Was there any warm clothing in the backpack?
Not that I recall.
No thermals or sweaters or anything?
Not that I recall, sir.
All right. And that teal blue sweatshirt that I think you may still have in front of you, Exhibit 16. How heavy is that?
Rather light material.
It's a light material. It's certainly not a heavy sort of hoodie you might see someone wearing during the winter.
Correct, it is not.
There was no pair of long pants in the backpack?
There was not.
And were you alone in the car when you drove him to the Danvers police station?
Yes, I was, sir.
Did you try to have any conversation with him at all?
No conversation.
Did you make any effort?
No, sir.
Okay. And he didn't say a word the whole time?
No, sir.
Did you have any trouble getting him out of the cruiser when you got to Danvers?
No, sir.
Did he comply with all the directions you gave him?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But always without acknowledging you or looking at you?
Never really had any direct contact stare, but...
Just the stare?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Any redirect?
No, no.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is recess a bit early today. We're well on schedule. Every day I'll tell you whether we're on schedule, ahead of schedule, or behind schedule. But we're well on schedule right now as we've started off. It's very important when you get home today and when you interact with other people that you maintain your seriousness and indeed vigilance in not letting anybody discuss the case in any way with you and not talking about it with anybody else. And obviously see television cameras in the courtroom and print media in the courtroom, and the case is going to be covered extensively. That means that you have to be proactive. You have to work really hard at avoiding any information. If you inadvertently happen to be in a room where there's a conversation or something comes on the television or the radio, that you immediately leave. I also want to ask you to do your best to get here early enough so that we can try to start as close to 9 o'clock as we possibly can every morning. Do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anybody else. Don't do any independent research concerning the case. Avoid any information from any source other than in the courtroom, and the jurors are excused until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
All right. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons having anything further to do before the Honorable David Lowy, Justice of the Superior Court, now sitting at Salem, within and for this county of Essex at present, depart and give your attendance at this place Tuesday morning next at 9 a.m., to which time and place the sitting of this court is now adjourned. Jurors, if you'll leave your notebooks right on your seat, and the officer will take you out. Come in.